Welcome to the huge update of the Mesh Deformation Package Documentation version 7. In this documentation I will introduce you some new amazing features such as modifiers, new mesh editor design and many more. Let's start with the new collection of the primitive shapes. You can easily customize the new generation of plane. It's called the Advanced Plane. You can set the plane's width and length. You can also enable the angle property to bend the plane. It's very useful for tracks or railroads. The advanced plane is also able to make its angle dynamic. It can raycast the landscape. Another primitive spec is called Advanced Shapes. It's a collection of advanced shapes with a fully customizable mesh data. You can simply set the count of vertices, value of a height, length, width, and so on. Now let's talk about the brand new Mesh Pro editor. As you can see, there are 4 buttons. Every button contains its methods and functions. On the bottom of the component you can see mesh information. But first of all, I'm going to introduce you Vertices Modification. As you are clicking on the Modification button, you can see the vertices on your object. It's very simple. Just one click to edit your mesh. The editor is very optimized because the points on the object are created from the 6 vertices. These points represent graphical vertices. Now you are very free to edit your mesh. There are a few properties that you are able to set up. Animation mode is a mode when the vertices can be destroyed. They will keep your mesh updating and you can manipulate with them in animation. You can also show, hide and switch their layers. Performance Saver is a great and very useful property. You can use it if your mesh has too many vertices, or if your scene is too slow and your performance is not very well. Just change the zone radius and generate vertices in the select zone. It will show up the vertices that you are located in the zone range. You can fully customize your own style of vertices. You can change their pattern and color. The biggest feature in Mesh Editor is Vertex window. To attach mesh, just select 2 or more meshes and press attach. The clone meshes, press clone. You can also set the count of loops, the clone, position offset and rotation offset. It's really fast if you're making a massive scene with similar objects. You can easily clone them. To weld vertices, just select 2 or more vertices and press weld. The selected vertices will split to 1. It could really save your time while you are editing your mesh. method relax will normalize the vertices and group them together. They will be also closer to the center of the road. There is a lot of ideas with these amazing features. And the last one is an additional feature that will help you in massive scenes, the group button. Assign the object and select the objects to group to the assigned object. It's a great time saver. Collider modification allows you to add a mesh collider refresher component that will dynamically refresh your mesh's collider. You can see that the component contains a few properties. You can decide if the mesh collider will be refreshed once per frame or after the specified interval in seconds. But we do not need mesh collider refresher for now. Identity modification contains basic methods for your mesh. You can create a new reference, save your mesh to the assets folder, and more. If you are creating a new mesh reference, you are able to change the name. Save mesh to the assets folder is a decent method that will allow you to store your mesh for the future use. As you can see, I already have some saved meshes and I can use them anytime, anywhere. You can enable or disable Create New Reference if you want to have a clearly new mesh. If you disable Create New Reference, the other copies of the mesh will contain the same mesh data. Optimized mesh is disabled, the bounds and normals will not be refreshed at runtime. And the mesh modification that contains internal and external modifiers. One of the most interesting internal modifiers is Mesh Fitter. The method will fit the selected vertices to the landscape with a collider. This method would save your time minimally twice. You can create dynamic or static decals and customize the mesh as you wish. Smooth mesh will smooth the surface of the mesh. You can set the smooth intensity. The mesh editor at Runtime is very optimized and upgraded. The beautiful design with many settings that you can set and customize. You can use interactive point to snap the selected point to the Raycast point. Let's talk about biggest feature, modifiers. There is a bunch of modifiers with amazing results. Let's start with the physically based Berlin noise. You can set the intensity, amount and speed. The result is just what you can see. It can be also used for water simulation. In this case, we used the vertical noise. The Morpher is one of the most advanced modifiers in this package. All what you need is a couple of meshes. I have already created some, directly in the Unity Mesh Pro editor. I will use them as a prototype for Mesh Morpher. Add target meshes and set the index below to the axis index in the target meshes. Register meshes and change the blend value to see the results. You can use it in many cases. For example, face expressions, morphable statues, and so on. Interactive landscape is one of the most amazing modifiers in this package. The more vertices the mesh has, the better results you will get. Let's create something like a snow simulation. I'm going to make a custom interactive radius and add a mesh collider refresher to refresh just once at the game startup. Change the Y offset a little down and play. As you can see, the object made a trail on the interactive landscape. You can easily play with that and you will always have amazing results. This simulation is just an awesome. Mesh damage is another great modifier. It's very similar to the interactive landscape, but the modifier is linked to its rigid body and force pressure. Add a rigid body and check the result. our mesh has been successfully deformed. The impact of the mesh hit the bottom surface. You can play with that and enjoy some destructible action. Raycast Event allows you to create your own raycast simulation with event system. You can use it in anytime, anywhere. It can be also used as an alternative for rigid body on the interactive landscape. Let's create a little prototype. I have made an interactive landscape object and a sphere that contains Raycast event. Add the event the interactive landscape mesh updater. And that's it. It can save a lot of performance according to custom events and raycasts. Enable Repair Mesh to see the beautiful effect which can be used in a snow simulation. Bend and twist are the basic modifiers at runtime that deform overall mesh. You can use 3 directions and amount property. Okay, that was everything from the package features. Let's get to introduce you completed games that are using the Mesh Deformation package and its features. Dirty Hills is one of the first games that uses the package features, but how the mud and the water is simulated? Very simply. The wheels contain Raycast event and they are connected with objects that contain interactive landscape component. There are 4 objects that contain interactive landscape modifier, including water. All these objects contain similar values of the interactive landscape modifiers, just radius and force multiplier are different. The water is created very simply. I have used the water shader that simulates the water waves through the GPU graphic processing unit. On the other hand, the interactive landscape modifiers proceed through the CPU, computer processor unit. That means that these 2 processors can be mixed. And this is the final product. The second game that is using the features of the Mesh Deformation Package has an interesting structure. All animations and motions are generated through the CG shaders. There is no skin and mesh filter component that keep bones. Everything is just a mesh filter. Everything has a shader that simulates an illusion of animation. It's fully customizable. You can use bump map, emission, specular value, and more. It can be also used as a particle system for massive scrolls. It's very easy for performance because it's processed through this GPU. The package contains many solid example games and scenes with exact explanation and very clear description. You can try the car damage, snow simulation, or the walking woman in the winter. As I have already said, in the previous documentation you can skin and animate your own static mesh. Make your mesh alive just in the Unity. If you are interested in mesh scanning by Mesh Deformation Package, check the previous documentation version 4. Of course, you will find there also VR content, including example scenes, source code and documentation. If you were interested in the completed products that are using the Mesh Deformation Package, feel free to try them. Links in the description. Okay, thank you for your support and I wish you good luck to the future. Thank you for your attention.